Thank you very much for having me. Firstly, before I start, I just want to thank the GAA for their hospitality. I've been here since Wednesday. Certainly the AFL relationship with the GAA is very important to us, and I'll be going back with glowing reports of the way I was treated, and I hope we can replicate the same way when you guys come back to our country. A little bit about my background is I played 13 years of AFL football for Melbourne Football Club, the team that you guys would probably know, where the great Jimmy Steins, who he represented. I then went to Hawthorn and played 2 years at Hawthorn, and the last 2 years I've been a coach. As Peter just mentioned, this year was the season just gone was a very successful year for Hawthorn. We won the premiership, and our reserves grade side, or our developing side, also won the premiership. So we're pretty confident that we're on the right track, and I'd like to share some of the things we do at Hawthorn to maybe help you guys with your coaching. Amongst that playing career, I was fortunate enough to play in the international rules, so fortunate enough to come out here and play a couple of times. But I thought I'd just share with you, this is the last time I was here, back in 2004, and this is my last memory of Croke Park.
So Luke Ball has it for Australia. Goes short, looking for his St Kilda teammate in Revo, almost held it. Picked up now by Lockhart. O'Halpine leading it on the air for a long time. Del Santo was able to play the crunching tackle. Here's Dodek again. Beautiful skills over to Del Santo. Run down by Brosnan was good play. And Ireland on the last line of the kit again. Turn it over, just like last week. This time it's the Aussies in charge. Bolton's kick was smothered, but he goes again. Dodek's there. Does it beautifully. Using his soccer skills on the boundary line. Keeps it in play. The dog gets in amongst the net. It's like a circus out there. The dog's been the best defender for Ireland so far in this game. Australian ball. Somebody get the dog off, for God's sake. Come on. Hooray. We have him.
So I actually think it was a little bit unfair employing those tactics, bringing out someone with local knowledge. I'm a little bit concerned that this dog might appear during this presentation. Hopefully that's not the case. But I thought, yeah, that'd be... I couldn't believe it stayed out on the ground for about 5 minutes. And the actual worrying thing was it probably touched the ball more than us Australians during that game. So, yeah, they're quite amusing. I thought throughout my presentation today, these are the topics that I will be covering. I'll just give you a brief introduction to the AFL, a few stats on where our game is at the moment. And then I'm going to go into where the AFL see children and the stages of development. We spend a lot of money on developing the game at grassroots level with kids, and the importance of retention of kids and the enjoyment that they have is imperative to the AFL. So I'll go through what the AFL are doing there. Just some information about where AFL players are in terms of specialisation versus diversification, what the elite players have done as juniors. Then I'm going to go through developing a specific skill in AFL footballers, and finishing with developing talent at the elite level. You might think that these last two topics are unrelated to children, but when I go through them, you'll see that the principles within this certainly you can implement at a child level, and it's very, very relevant to children. Firstly, just before I do, there is going to be plenty of info throughout this, but there will be one key theme throughout each section that will hopefully help you guys when coaching children. So, and I'll reiterate that at the end. So, at AFL, At the moment, at 2012, we haven't got the 2013 figures, a touch over 840,000 domestic participation in the game. There's over 2,500 community-based clubs, which fielded about 13,000 teams in over 270 leagues. 18,000 plus school-based teams participated in competitions in 2012 at primary and secondary level. A really promising statistic is that there's over 135,000 females participating in the game, and the AFL have programs in place promoting females getting more and more involved, female competitions, which is really exciting. And 120,000 odd participants in games, various countries around the world. So we have an international cup, and Ireland have a team that come across, and they're improving. So we have to keep improving our game, that's for sure. I'm just going to move on to the second category of what the AFL are doing with our children's program. And this is the philosophy that the AFL have come up with. And you can see it's based around sequentially developing their skills through activities, games, commensurate with their stages of learning. So we're fully aware that kids develop at different levels. There's no point putting them all up against each other. Let's let them enjoy themselves and make sure that they develop according to their body size and their maturity. These are the qualities within that philosophy that are crucial to our AFL children's program. So just having a look there, you can see that number one, and listening to the presenters that we've had this morning, that importance of fun and safety, that's the number one important thing. The quality of children and parents, family environment, and making sure that the community stay involved. Now, these programs must be planned around what children want. And these four things are exactly what the children have told the AFL. Most importantly, to have fun with their friends. Secondly, to experience excitement and enjoyment. Third, to experience challenge, achievement and personal responsibility. And when some people think skills, let's get better and better, kids see that as the fourth most important thing. So for you as a coach, if you think you might just reconsider the way you're approaching your coaching. Now, the programs that the AFL put in place at kids level, these are the requirements. The AFL enforces these at the junior level or the kids level. So you can see appropriate warm-up activities, appropriate skill teaching in a sequential program, trained and accredited coaches, umpires and officials, and support for learning and inexperienced umpires. You'll see down the bottom there, over the last 10 years, the AFL have introduced appropriate modified rules matches. So prior to this being in place, kids would be playing on adult-sized grounds, and you can imagine wasn't ideal. Fair to say the quality of the game and the enjoyment that the kids had wasn't ideal for player retention. So they've introduced this, and you can see it's a very busy slide, so I'll just run you through some of the key areas within that. At kids level, there's three categories. The introductory, development and competition phase. Our under-8 program, they play on a ground which you can see there is 80 metres by 60 metres. The under-9s and 10s up a little bit bigger to 100 metres by 80 metres. The competition details, if you look down there, at the early level, the previous speakers in this room spoke about winning at all costs. You can obviously see, not winning at all costs. You can obviously see there that the AFL think that how important it is, and therefore not to have any scores, ladders or finals, no recording of best players or anything like that. Contact is low or non-existent, and there's a lot of information there, but you can see the AFL are doing things at various, and I'm sure from speaking to people involved with Gaelic, it's very similar at your levels. So that is just a diagram of the MCG, which is our home stadium, the 160 metres, so that's an adult-sized field. And you can see there the difference with the kids level. It's quite significant, and it's getting great outcomes in terms of player retention, children involvement, enjoyment, that fun and enjoyment that I've been talking about. What the AFL have also done is introduced a stages of development program. So it's, like I said earlier, it's all about sequential catering for players' maturity. At the early stages, participation and learning fundamental movement and game skills is the objective. At the sampling stage, 12 to 14, exactly the same. And then you'll see in bold, I've got, while continuing to develop all-round sports skills. So we're not wanting all our players to primarily focus on Aussie rules football. We want them to go out and experience other sports which will develop their all-round skills. And as we get further into youth, specialising becomes prevalent in 17 to 18-year-olds, and then as we go on, but we're here to talk about the kids, so no need to focus on that. This is another busy slide, but what the AFL have allowed is for a talent pathway. So yes, we've got a participation pathway for those that really just want to enjoy and have that fun and experience camaraderie and development. And they've also got an opportunity for those that want to take it a little bit more seriously to have a sequential pathway to ultimately getting drafted to an AFL club. So you can see at the stage of 12 to 14 years, stage 2, AFL clubs have started to introduce academies, which certainly we're not saying you have to go through this pathway. It's an option for the kids to do. Specialisation versus diversification. I thought in terms of going through this, we'd talk about or define what an expert is, and when I show some graphs and data, when I refer to an expert, I'm talking about the elite at AFL level. So a common view is that specialising early, a late starter can't catch another person who has begun deliberate practice early and continued to progressively invest. This is an outdated theory. And the AFL have done research to suggest that AFL players do not need to specialise early to become elite in the competition. These consequences of early specialisation would have been discussed in previous presentations, I'm sure. Overuse, dropping out, kids dropping out. And you can see elite swimmers who specialised early spent less time on the national team, ended their sporting careers earlier than those who specialised later. Just a quote that I thought was a good one, so have a read of that. Just talking about let's let the kids get involved when they're really ready. You might think we're a professional competition. We really want to get the best talent nice and early, European soccer style, but let them develop, let them get ready. So having a look at this graph, you'll see that AFL, experts or elite, throughout their junior years, play as many different activities as those that are non-experts. It is only until they turn 14 or 15 where that starts to reduce and the kids start to play more specifically Aussie rules football, or spend a little bit more time focusing on that. You can see, you can see there, diversifying. The amount of hours that an elite AFL player spent diversifying in his younger years in invasion activities, and what I mean by invasion is anywhere where there's opposition, basketball, soccer, football, Gaelic hurling, and then netball, tennis and all that sort of stuff. Field, run squad is baseball, cricket. I understand Ireland are very enthusiastic about their cricket, and other. And then in terms of, you can see the similarities at early years of an AFL specific focus of the kids, very similar to non-experts. It's only until 14, 15, 16 where you can see a significant difference in the amount of extra time that those that really want to become elite start to spend. Studies show that expert AFL decision makers invested more hours in organised sport and related games-based activity than non-experts. They invested 3 times as many hours in invasion activities compared to non-experts. Made a relatively smooth transition into senior ranks. All information that is reiterating the importance of diversifying at a young age. Letting the kids play the games. And then the last point, we at AFL level really think game-based activities are a big key factor. So obviously I've been reiterating about how important diversifying is. I think you've got the message in terms of what the AFL think about that. I'm going to go through now developing a specific skill within Australian rules football, and specifically I'm going to look at kicking. So this is the AFL's generic idea on what a sequential program in terms of kicking for a child is. So you can see it start with players just stepping towards each other, you're increasing it, you're increasing the pace, having race relays for that enjoyment factor, and then moving down towards the game-based activity. And speaking to people involved in Gaelic footy here, very similar approach that all the coaches here would have in terms of getting their players and the important things to do with kicking. Developing a specific skill, the different phases, we know are beginners focusing on coordination, they're intermediate, they're controlling, they're exploring a bit more relationship between their movement and their environment, and the elite level, they become expert within an environment. So whenever there's opposition coming at them, they can adjust. So this is my little boy. He's 16 months, certainly at the beginner stage. But I haven't, all he has done is watched me kick. So I haven't said this is how you hold it or do anything. He's just exploring, and that's what we do at the beginner stage. At the second stage, this is Lance Franklin. You might know Buddy Franklin. This is him at 16 years of age. You can see he's a little bit green. He's throwing the ball around. Certainly he was experimenting there with different environment and different movement patterns.
Can just lets it spill out to Lance, and Lance picks it up and kicks an uncontested goal.
What about Luke Hodges' kick just there? He decides to kick a banana on the run.
If you picked it up early, he was searching for an option, and at the last minute just adjusted the environment that he was given. He changed his kick, and he's kicked it on the outside of the foot, and that's an example of what an elite kick does. So this is what Hawthorn have done with their developing of a specific skill, and I'm going to go through these 5 things. And like I said, you might think that this is a little bit above what children should be focusing on, but the common theme within this, you'll see, is very much appropriate to coaching children on the way of kicking. So a traditional approach to understanding a skill, there's this biomechanical model that is distinguished. It's a common approach, optimal and invariant, and that was the traditional approach that most, and probably still some other clubs, focus on. So looking at this, you would have seen these, this information, this data. That guy kicking there was considered to be the perfect kicking technique of an AFL football, and he was at 16, 17 at that level. All about the pelvic tilt, the hip flexion extension, the knee flexion extension. So that data was the traditional approach. This is at our facility at Hawthorn back home, and years ago this is how we gave feedback. We got them kicking there and immediate feedback. We were of the opinion the player needed that feedback straight away for his development. We compared, we tried to build a player's technique. So the guy on the shot on the left, this is a guy called Jared Roughhead, who is an elite AFL player. That was his natural kicking technique, and on the right is what we thought was the ideal biomechanical kicking technique. So we built him up, put him into a game, thought it was going to work perfectly, and lo and behold, gave us nothing. So, what was that telling us?
Set.
So watch this.
Safa Paul ist der schnellste aus den Blöcken. Jetzt kommt Gay und jetzt ist Usain Bolt nicht zu halten. Nein, er gewinnt.
Can run, that boy. Rather fast. But he looks different to others. He runs differently. He lopes, but with power and drive from his long legs. He's not the perfect technique, but it probably should be, considering he's run 9.58. So again, it's funny how you can see there, that helped made us shift our philosophy on developing a specific skill. It's wrong, this traditional biomechanical approach. It's just let the player explore what they have. Don't try and build them up to be exactly the same as the perfect technique. So, again, looking back at what an expert kick is, and at Hawthorn, that third point, talking about the adaptation of their skill. Implications for learning and practice. We want to develop our players into experts. So we conducted a study and we looked at a player called Sam Mitchell. He's an elite midfielder in the AFL, and we collected 12 months of data on his kicks throughout a game and 12 months of data of his kicks within training to see if we were actually training the right way. So that's his game in terms of the way he sourced the kick, and that's what we've been training at Hawthorn. So you can see there, within a game, 2% of the time he was getting the ball from a handball receive after someone marked it, whereas we're training 31% of the time him doing that. How do you think that is going for his development? The distance of the kick. You can see there, 28% of the time within training he was kicking 30 to 45 metres, yet in a game he was kicking 44% of the time. Again, the type of kick, 80% of the time in the game he's just kicking straight towards a target, and we're getting him to train only 30% of the time there. And there's plenty of information stats that you'll see. But the message within this is that were we training the way we want to play? And that was obvious, no. And it wasn't great for his development. So at a kids level, I suggest let's get this games-based approach, training the way the kids want to play, let them go out and play. As well as games-based approach, we decided to adopt this hands-off constraints coaching philosophy. So letting the kids or letting the players explore what they have rather than telling them specifically how they have to kick. And as a coach, I'm sure there are plenty of people that think, I've just got to continue to give feedback, continue to give feedback, justify your role. But you'll see here, we tell them one thing. All we did here, we told that kicker that we tried to remodel a little bit later on, we just put this balance beam and said, hit the target. And sure enough, he just hit the target. It was as simple as that. We put up this screen for people to have a kick at. That was the screen. We had a sample of about 50 kicks. You can see wasn't a great result. But under this constraints approach, we said, there's a target, just hit that. And then we put that same picture with that target there, hit that, and that was the new sample. So comparing the two samples, you can see that it was an improved outcome. So certainly from our point of view, this hands-off approach is something that is worthwhile and we recommend for the development of the players. You can see here throughout a game that we didn't plan this, but one of the supporters may have been tapping into our training. Sure enough, that guy kicks it straight through. So if at kids level, if dads want to get out there and put a target up there, might be the way to go to get the outcome. So in summary, for developing a specific skill, those movement patterns are individual. So training should reflect that. Work with rather than against how the kicker or the child moves. Deliberate practice, gameplay is fundamental. Learning for kids, obviously, again, should be fun, safe and challenging. Goal kicking, learning how to kick, it should be really fun. Guide and shape, that last point. Guide and shape rather than dictate. Let the kids explore. And that's what we do at AFL elite level. And certainly, if we can do it at that level, you should just let the kids do it at junior level. Finally, I'm going to go through how we develop talent once they come in, but you'll see up until about 23 years of age, I would suggest this be a model that you use within your own coaching. So we have a holistic approach, and I heard the word holistic mentioned before, so it's good that we're on the same page. We obviously have the technical component of a player that we want to develop. We have a physiological, we have a psychological, and a tactical. And we weight those components evenly. We don't spend more time in the technical and tactical aspect, which you may think we did. We spend exactly the same amount of time developing the whole person, because it's important, and the best players are generally the best people. So getting into good habits and developing the kids and the younger players to be good people will be the best outcome for everyone. So technical aspect of game development, of developing a player, obviously we all know what the standard skills are. The physiological, their body, their diet, how they recover. So we spend a lot of time on that. Their psychological, and you'll see the top point there, our Hawthorn values, our behaviours, the character, the importance of education and training. You can see this is all reiterating the importance of diversification, their well-being, heavily weighted towards well-being. And tactical is our decision-making and a common aspect of individual development. So when we teach our players, and these are all points that you can use at junior level, positivity, fun, interesting and challenging. When you're teaching kids, small groups, the kids will feel confident sharing their knowledge, asking questions, won't be embarrassed, their self-esteem will be good. Analyse players' games like senior players get analysed. That's specific to obviously adults. But as a coach and personally as an individual, continually exploring to improve teaching and player learning. Training, we have these, making it a really good learning environment. And you can see the last point there, fun and challenging. Not only at kids level do you want it to be fun and challenging, but we need it at professional elite level. I introduced this year a concept, or last year, called Feel Good Fridays, which was just mucking around games, diversifying. You wouldn't think AFL elite players that you see running around would want to be doing this, they'd just be concentrating on footy. But no, these Feel Good Fridays and muck around Monday sessions were imperative towards their development. So, key points, holistic approach, all the players, accelerating the young, and the best learning and teaching environment. That holistic approach to player development certainly is something that us at Hawthorn, in a professional environment, focus on. So in summary, the 4 points, the 4 main categories after the introduction, these are the key themes that I want to leave you with. Firstly, let's provide a fun and enjoyable environment for the children. We do that, that's the aim at AFL level. We want to encourage players to diversify. Best way that they can enjoy their game and their childhood is playing with their mates, and it actually correlates to becoming an elite player if that's where you want to head. Allow players to explore, give them space. Don't think you have to constantly be at the player telling them, this is how to do it, adjusting, all the little intricacies of kicking. And then coach the whole player. Spend time being or focusing on their well-being, the whole player, because that is what makes the top level players. I'm going to finish with quite a humorous video. And just ask yourself, is this the way I coach?
Number two! Come on, Gary, number two! Charlie, use the space! Use the space! Come here, Charlie! Why not, for God's sake? Come here! What's the matter with you? Come on! Referee! Get your flag up, baby! Get your flag up! Hold on. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Up.
you very much for having me. You've got a great association.